Okay, am I live? Hey there, it's Carlita Wright. This is my first time doing a live stream in this way. So I'm just gonna make sure everything is ready. It says I'm live. Let me refresh the screen over here. Connect your live stream. Let's see. It says I'm live. So I'll just give it a second to make sure that I have everything set up. This is different for me, learning a new skill. And let's see. Upcoming, am I live? Okay, that looks good. I'm live. There's a delay I noticed on this screen, but I am live. Wow, that is so cool. Let me refresh this real quick. I am going to you in control room. Ah, pretty cool. Let's see if this is gonna. Now, I don't know if you can hear me, but I hope it is. I hope it's recording. It says it is. The mic is on. All right, y'all. Well, I'll go ahead and start, and I'm hoping that everything works the way that it's supposed to on my first live screen. So a lot of you guys are going to see the replay, and that's perfectly fine. But I'm going to go ahead and start because, we just finished our election. This is a week post-election, and people are just distracted right now. They're emotional. And I'm going to give you a secret. When I built my trucking business, when I built any business, I take an opportunity of the crisis. I heard someone say, don't let a good crisis go to waste. And it's not saying to take advantage of people or things in a negative way, but look at the positive side of a crisis. And while people are distracted right now, this is the time for you to begin to get everything in order, put things in place, and try to get ahead because you have less competition in the marketplace because people are distracted. So while they are distracted, I'm going to help you start your business. I'm going to be giving you some information on how to set up a business. Doesn't matter what kind of business. I'm using universal principles to help you follow a pattern of setting up a business that works for you. So let's get started. Now, there are some things I won't be able to share on public, but I will give you a link in the chat to visit my private, my other channel where I teach and I do webinars, and we go on Zoom and do in-session training where I really get in and break down what it really is. But for now, I'm going to give you what you need to get started. And if you follow the steps, no matter what state, what industry, or what business you are in, I think you'll be able to have prosperity in 2025. So I'm excited. I have a lot to share with you guys. I want to share some strategy things with you later. In other videos, I want to share with you how to use social media. I want to share with you how to brand yourself and how to brand your business in a way that lets you stand out among the crowd. So with that being said, let me go ahead and get started. So I have my screen here. I'm going to go and I'm going to write on my screen. I'm going to take some notes, and you'll see me right on the screen, and I want you to take notes as I go along. So I mentioned we're working while they are distracted. So the first thing you do when you're starting a business is you always start with your why. Why do you want to start a business? And it's so important because a lot of people have reasons they want to start. They want to make money. They feel threatened at their jobs. They want to express their true essence. Maybe because they just want to, make $1 million+, or maybe want freedom. They want to be able to express themselves, like I said earlier. But no matter what your reason is of why, you have to make sure that you're clear on your why, because this why is going to make all the difference. Because when it gets hard and when it gets tough, this why is going to keep you going. And I can speak to that firsthand. It's one thing to be in business, but if you don't have a purpose that's driven, then it's going to fizzle out. And you be like, you know what, this is not worth the squeeze. The juice is not worth the squeeze, right? So I want you to be very purposeful and very passionate about why you're starting a business. A lot of people have been getting into trucking, and it's not their passion. And I can attest to that. I did, but my passion was to help my family. And that's what drove me. But once that phased out, my passion was no longer there. You guys can chat. The chat is open if you want to chat. I don't see anything there, but if you do chat, I am live. I will be able to respond. So with that being said, I'll keep going. So you got to have a purpose and you got to have a passion. And take time to really think about, your entire life, because I promise you, the business that's designed for you, it's hidden in the thread of your life. But you have to sit down and really think about your childhood, think about the frustrations you have in your life, think about the things that excite you, think about the things that you're really good at, or things you really talk about all the time. And in there is a thread. It's a constant thread, and it's a theme. And you really have to take time to discover. It's like a discovery, and it unfolds itself to you. So find out why you're here. Why are you on this earth? Why are you? Why do you have the desire to start a business? And when you get clear on the why, then your purpose, your mission, and the energy you need to grow and start a business will begin to unfold itself to you. So take the time, find your purpose and your passion, get really clear on the themes in your life, the themes in your past, and the reason why you're doing what you're doing, and take an assessment. What do you have at your disposal? What do you have that you can use right now? What can you get access to if you need to? What are your personal connections? Does your network allow you to build a business that will support itself? If it's not, then we begin to build the network. Hey guys, come on in. I'm live. It's a live video, so come on in. But you want to be able to look at your entire connections, look at your life, your resources, and really begin to understand, do you have what you need to build the business you want? And then you have to look at your environment, okay? When you begin to assess why you want to be in business, there has to be alignment in your purpose, your passion, your assets, your environment. Like if you want to build a ski resort, your passion is to do a ski resort, but you live in the South. Like your environment is not conducive. Your environment is not aligned with your vision and passion. So you have to relocate that vision, that dream, to an area that has more snow, to the West Coast. So it has to make sense, and you have to position yourself in a place where you can thrive, because your dream is valid. Your desires are valid, but you have to give your dream give your dream an opportunity to grow by putting it into an environment where it can grow, where you can water it and nurture it, and just be able to prosper and become all that you have hoped for it to be. So when you're starting a business, before you start, get very clear on your why. And I'm going to say this: I know a lot of people want to start because of money. I promise you, if money is the only reason why you're starting a business, it's going to fizzle out. Money is a given. If you're going to be working, you got to be paid for your work. So money is going to be given. You have to be profitable, but you have to have another reason why you're doing what you're doing. Maybe, you have to be, it has to be an emotional attachment to why you're doing what you're doing. Because I've seen a lot of good people, a lot of so good people with good intentions who never reach their goals. So being good and having a desire to be good doesn't mean anything. Whereas I've seen a lot of bad people who are just driven and who actually reach their goals. So there's a difference between, having a why for good intention and having a why that's driven on purpose. So you have to really make sure it's an emotional connection and not just a hope and a wish, but an emotional connection that actually gets you to your business goals. So that's the first thing. Now, once you do that, you have to then begin to look at the government. Okay? Let me erase that. It's kind of sloppy. I don't like the way it looks. So, number 2. So, once you look at the government, because what happens is we're living in a system. And one thing that I've learned when I've started so many businesses is when I built my business, but I aligned it with the strategies and the goals of the government, money opened itself up to me. I was able to get loans and finances and grants. So you want to be able to look at the government structure and align yourself to the mission and the goals of your federal, your state, your city. It doesn't matter. Even if you're not providing services, the thing is the government provides an indicator. They've already done a lot of the work. They already know what the services and the needs are. A lot of the services that are out there, like business coaching, the government does it. Now, they may or may not do it as well as a private person, but the indicator, the directions are there of what the public actually wants. So you want to look at the government and kind of see where there's alignment, because in alignment, money will open itself up to you. Grants and loans and federal contracting, and just knowing how to structure your business. Make sure you're looking at the government, because you're going to prevent yourself from having problems down the line. You never want to start a business and then you're in it for 6 months to a year and you fail to get a certain regulation because you didn't take the time to understand the governmental regulations that are overseeing your industry, your business. So look at the government. And with that being said, you're going to always start at the USTPO.gov. All right? You're going to always start at the USTP. Let me get that wrong. Let me rephrase that. It's the US. Let me go to. So number 2 is government. Okay. And you're going to go to is USPTO. And it stands for the United States Patent and Trade Offices. You're going to start there. And the reason why is because you're going to be looking for your business's name. And you always want to have a business that has not already been used. Because the last thing you want to do is start a business, name your business, and someone gets you for copyright infringement because you didn't take time to align your idea with what's already existing in the marketplace. So let's back up here. So talking about the name, your business name. A lot of times, some of you who may be just getting started out and you don't know what to name your business. Well, there are websites out there that will help you brainstorm ideas. But if you really start with your why, the theme that you see will kind of help lead and guide you on what your business name will be. It could be, I recommend a branded name. That way you can begin to build brand recognition. Something that's only and that's unique to you and to your experiences and to your expertise and to your value. So you want to have a branded name. And if you can't really figure that out, find a keyword or a word that really represents what you are, what you do. And what you do is you add the name and you always tie it to a service. You tie it to an industry, or an offering. So I'll use trucking as an example. Let's say this is a plus sign right here, plus sign. So let's say your example is ignite. You want to ignite a fire or excitement, and that's what you see in your life is you're always excited and starting things. So your brand name is Ignite, right? And your service is trucking. So Ignite Trucking. Or maybe it's an industry. Ignite Transportation. Maybe it's an offering. Ignite Delivery. So what you do is you find your name and you tie it to a service, an industry, or an offering. And that will help you understand exactly how to build a name. And then you take that name and you put it into USPTO's website. And you're making sure that that name does not exist anywhere in the US. Now, you will see a lot of Ignites already in there, but the key is it the same? Is it exactly the same? You want to make sure that the service, the offering, and the industry doesn't match, because you can have the same brand name, but have different variations of that name, and it becomes unique. So that's how you find your name. And if you find yourself where you really can't figure out, your creative juices are not flowing, don't waste time on it. You can always figure that out later. If you don't know exactly what to name your business, I will start with your first name or your last name. We'll erase this real quick. So USTPO. And what you're going to do is you're going to have your name, and you're going to do the same thing, your personal, your last name, or your first and last name, or your first name, and do the same thing. Do a service. You're going to do ICE. It's ICE. Service, industry, or offering. How's it doing that for? Let's see. Offering. There we go. So take your last name and then couple it with one of the two and just get it registered, get it listed, and go ahead and get started. Because you can always do a DBA at a later date if you need to, if you're doing business as. If you have a eureka moment later and you want to change the name, you can always do a DBA. So that's what you do first. You have to start with your why, find the theme, choose a name, and go to the USTPO website, USPTO.gov website, to make sure you're starting off on the right foot. And then I recommend that you take that name and you try to find the domain name that matches as close as you can. Go ahead and register the domain name for like $2 or $3, maybe 10 at the most. That way you have access to it. And I recommend doing more than 1 year. That way you can just kind of have that confidence and clarity of knowing that you're good for a while. And then go ahead and start building your business. All right. So once you go to the USPTO.gov website, the next website you want to go to is the IRS. I'll erase this. So now you're going to go to the IRS because we're dealing with federal now. We're still dealing with the federal government. We're going to go through each entire branch of the government. Now you're going to go to the IRS's website. And when you get to the IRS's website, you're going to definitely look for your EIN. I do not recommend using your social security number because it's all about how you start. And you don't want to be starting and backpedaling yourself. You want to already have the end in mind, the end of your business in mind. So start off properly and get a separate EIN to separate you, your person, from your business person. They're both persons, but you're creating a person in your business. You're creating an entity. You're creating a person, they call it person, as a business. And you give it an identity, give it a brand, give it a name, give it a personality. And so make sure you go to the IRS website and get an EIN. And I'm not a tax accountant. I'm not a lawyer. I can tell you what I did. I actually got an LLC, So I'm registered as an LLC, the limited liability. And then what I did was I turned around and I designated myself as an S Corp starting off because I knew I was making a certain amount of money. So I did an S Corp. And you can eventually change it to a C Corp. It all depends on how you want to move, but you can do S Corp or C Corp. But I do recommend you considering doing some research on the two. But I did LLC for the business designation, but I did it as an S Corp. Got that number, got that registration complete, and then you take that number, because you cannot go any further until that's first done, and go to your state level. And on your state level, you're going to go to the state secretary of state. Put some brackets. So I'm in Louisiana. I'll go to Louisiana Secretary of State, and this is their office. ICE. Okay. And when you go there, you're going to take that EIN number, and you are going to begin to do your business registrations. You're going to begin to set up your business legally. You have a clean name. You have a very clean EIN. And you're going to go ahead and start getting everything registered legally in your state. And you're going to pay a fee. It can range between, I don't know, like $10 some places up to $110, $120. It all depends on your state. And they'll give you some great resources, some great links to kind of help you navigate the state departments and help you understand exactly what you need to do in your state. So go ahead and go to your state's Secretary of State office, and they will give you the Articles of Organization. That's the main name. It may have a different variation depending on what state you are, but it's called the Articles of, basically, a birth certificate. It's giving you a birth certificate of your business being born on this date. And that way it's a living entity, a living person. And on there, if you know your DBA, you're doing business as designation, you'll put it there. If you don't, you can come back later and they will charge a fee. So make sure you know what that fee is. So if you do change your mind later and want to modify what you're called, then you want to do that. Now, if you know what you want to be called, I want you to be mindful of this. So when you go to your state's office, and you register your business, I'm going to give you an example of say a business name, like we mentioned, Ignite. Ignite. Let's do transportation. And it doesn't matter if you're in trucking, anything. But whenever your business name, you're going to always use that LLC. Whenever you have a business, you have to legally always include the LLC or the Inc. if you're incorporated. You can't just break it and say Ignite Transportation. You have to add the LLC. It may have a comma, it might not have a comma, depending on how you registered it, but you have to have an LLC. Now, when you do the DBA now, if I don't want to always use the LLC, I'll just say Ignite. That's not what I want. Ignite. Okay, erase that. Ignite Transportation. Right? So I'll make my DBA Ignite Transportation, or I might say my DBA is Ignite Trans. Right? Doesn't matter. I'll choose what that nickname is, and it'll be a fictitious name or an assumed name or a doing business as. They're all the same. It all depends on how they word it in your state. So that way you don't have to always put the LLC on that. And it doesn't have to match. If you don't want to name it Ignite, you can do your DBA as IG Trans. Or it doesn't matter, whatever you want, right? But just know that DBA is a nickname. That's the name you're going to be using as you're branding your business and getting your name out there. But if you don't know, leave it blank and just use the LLC designation, but you have to make sure you're including that as you are building your brand. So yeah, that's the state level. You want your articles of incorporation or articles of organization, and that's what you're going to use to help you get funding. And if you're in the right industry, once you start making some income, it doesn't have to be a year. It doesn't have to be 10 years. But once you can show that, hey, we're bringing in income, bringing in money, and you need funding, you will get funding, especially if you align yourself with the interests of the government. Trucking is one of those industries. Anything in manufacturing is one of those industries. Anything that creates more jobs. So those types of industries and sectors that are showing an income and that has promise of helping the government reach their milestones and goals, there's funding for that. And of course, depending on how the economy is going, be mindful of those at-risk industries that may be losing money compared to other industries. Now, those I will say they will not fund those. It'll be a little harder. You got to be a little more creative with your funding opportunities. But at any rate, just keep that in mind as you're building. You have to think about those things. That way you can position yourself appropriately and you can time yourself as far as when to do what when. But starting out, you don't have to worry about it as much, but just keep it in the back of your mind as you're building and growing and making sure you file your registrations properly. That way you're not in business and out of compliance. You will never want to be out of compliance. It's going to always cost you more in the long run. So I will say this about the filings before we move on. Making sure that you remember your annual reportings. Every year, when you have a business, you have to file your annual reporting. And what you're basically telling them is that, hey, we are still in business. We're still active. We're still growing. So a short form you fill out. In our state, in Louisiana, is a short form I fill out. Yeah, I may give them my income. I don't know. But I just remember just filling it out and submitting it to keep it active. There's a fee. It's a fee. But that allows them to know that you're not a dead business. You actually are engaged, keeping up with your business, and you are still filing reports. Okay, so we did the federal level, we did the state level. Now you have to go to your county. Now in Louisiana, we don't have counties, we have parishes, but most states have counties. If you're in Canada, you may have a township, or you may have, I know Jamaica and Canada have parishes, but just go down to the next level after your state and begin to ask them questions of what they need, what needs to be filed. Because it doesn't just stop at the federal level. You have to make sure you are compliant in every level, even if you're not bringing income in the county. Maybe your money comes from outside clients. You still have to file legally in all levels of government. So I'll give you some examples of how that looks here in a moment. But so go to your county or your parish level, and your state will help you. They'll give you information, they'll give you links, and they'll give you numbers. Just ask them. They're all interconnected. Oh, sorry, y'all. My husband's calling me. Close that out. It's my husband. I'll call him back. Let me let him know now that I'm on a live. I thought I put a focus on there and close it out. I'll call you back. All right. So now we got the county level. You got to make sure that you also took the county, and your state will help you with that. All right. City level. Your city wants to know you're in business as well. They want to know how many businesses are being registered. And it's important because depending on how your laws are set up, if you decide to use a DBA, a fictitious name, an assumed name, an alias, if you decide to use any of those terms to nickname your business, you have to register it on the city or county level, depending on the rules. And once you register it and you file it in your court of clerks offices, You'll take that certified letter and you'll also file it at your state level. That way it's recorded legally that this is your trademark, this is your brand name. This is a step that people don't know. They just started business for it. But if anything happens, you really need to make sure you're cognizant of the fact that you really need to make sure that you are compliant on all levels of your government. So just keep that in mind. If you do a DBA or a fictitious name, that you register your business on that level. And of course, they have licenses and occupational licenses that you need to have access to, especially when in the future you want to apply for funding. They'll be asking for the document, and you want to have your articles, your trademarks, your occupational licenses, and anything else you need to kind of help produce what they call prima facie evidence, like just like first evidence that this is my business, this is when I registered it, this is legit, this is legit, I'm a real business. So as many of those check marks and modes and modalities and information you can gather, the better it'll be for your business. So keep that all in a file, and we'll move on now to the next. So we mentioned county, we did city. When you start a business, you also want to go to your industry. Okay? All right. Let's say, for example, you're not in trucking. You can or not. Let's say you're opening a crematory, right? Something different. You're opening a crematory for pets. And whenever people's pets die, you're going to go and you're going to cremate them for them, or whatever they ask you to do, right? They wanted their ashes to momentamize, their loved pet. Well, you have to know the industry standards, and there are rules and regulations, and your industry will be the best one to kind of help lead and guide you. Because if you're not aware, there is an air permit that's needed if you decide to open up a crematory for pets. Who would have thought? Now, not only do you have to go through, the IRS or your state secretary's office or your county or city, now you need to go through to the EPA and find their Department of Environmental Quality. And they will be able to give you a permit to permit you to burn, whether you're burning feces or animals, or burning wood, or burning construction material, whatever it might be. But you have to understand the industrial standards and the rules, the regulations you need to follow for whatever industry you're in. You can't just start a business and just go in. You have to really understand where you must be compliant. And then, of course, your insurance requirements. And you can just call an insurance agent, and they should be very knowledgeable of different requirements. You can go with a designated industry-specific agents who may have access to they're brokers, basically, access to different policies. Or you may go with a branded agent that may have one product that they're offering. But either way, just make sure you're with the insurance companies and begin to break down, okay, what does it cost? What's my designation? What are my services? Because that may dictate what you do depending on the cost of the insurance. Because depending on how risky it is, the insurance will go up. So get a quote, understand what's required, and making sure that you meet the regulation for the government. For example, in trucking, when you get in trucking, there's a minimum. You gotta have $100,000, $1 million this, and $2 million this, right? So you have to know that before you get the wrong insurance or be underinsured, or you go purchase a truck, you get the wrong insurance, and you go on the load boards and you're not able to get any load because you are not compliant on the insurance requirements. So really get a good understanding of whether or not this is what you want to get into based on the insurance. Because I'm telling you, that insurance will change your whole mind. If the passion's not there, that insurance cost will make you think real quickly if you really want to go into that industry, or pivot and go a different way, or find something that's more compliant with what you really want to do. And I'm just saying this, I'll rephrase it. I really want you guys to focus on what you really want to do. No longer will I be helping anyone get into trucking just to make money. If it's not your passion, your lifelong dream, I don't recommend you do it, because it's not going to be purposeful in the long run. So just making sure you're doing what you really want to do, getting the right career. That way you'll be happy and you have more longevity in whatever business you decided to build. All right, so there we go. That's the why. That's the government regulations. When you're starting your business, so those of you who came in just now, I am live. I'm just talking about how to start your business, because right now people are distracted. They have really lost where they're going. They're distracted with the election. While they're distracted, my secret has always been to take advantage of the opportunity, take advantage of the crisis, and begin to put things in place and begin to move and be strategic. So then when everyone looks back up, you're 10 miles ahead. You're well ahead of the game, and you're able to really build the momentum you need with less of the competition in your way. So right now's the time. This is quarter 4. I'm going to ramp up and get ready for 2025. And I'm going to do my best to help make sure you're ready for that. All right. So now that you have your business set up, now that you have your passion and your purpose, and you know exactly what you want to do, I think now you got to find clients, right? Okay, you may have an idea, but now you got to get out there and find clients. And what is so important, I think, when it comes to business is to understand what you think you're selling, you're not selling. You think you're selling trucking, you think you're selling real estate, you think you're selling a gadget or a product. You're not selling that. What you're really selling, in my mind, in my opinion, you're selling an idea. You're selling your energy. You're selling, a solution. You're selling, inspiration. You're selling motivation. You're giving them like, oh wow, man, I feel better. I found what I needed. You're selling hope, and you have to know and understand your target market. And I will say this, and it's not political, it doesn't matter what you voted for, but you have to give Donald Trump and his team credit. They are master marketers. They focused on how the people they wanted to represent were talking. They understood the language, the words, the problems, and they rehearsed it back to them. They brought up so many people who told their stories and told their pain and their frustrations. And in their pain and frustrations, you can able to hear and see yourself in those stories. And you got to think of business like that. Whatever you're selling, understand their problems, hear their frustrations, and you repeat it back to them. You begin to communicate their language back to them so they can understand that you understand the issues. And when they feel you understand the issues, they don't know if your solution is going to provide them with the answer. They don't know. But you gave them hope. You give them hope, and they're willing to give you a try to see whether or not it actually benefits them. And just make sure you have the solution. Don't just be talking, just get their attention. Be responsible and really have the solution and focus on serving them. Right? Focus on doing what you said you're going to do. Because one thing you lose people's hope. When you lose people's, when you lose their, what's the word I'm trying to use? When you lose their trust, right? You lost it all. And bad news travel much faster than good news. So just understand that you want to understand the problem, understand the target audience, and then you want to be able to express that to them. Now, with that being stated, as you're building your business, it's important to understand that that you're in 2025, right? We're entering into 2025, and you have to get online, because what the problem is, people think they can just create something and people will come. Right? I'll even take it to trucking, because I have a trucking experience. You can buy a truck and you'll find your clients. But here's the problem. You can on a low board, you can find customers, but you'll never be able to find clients. You'll get customers, the one-time customer, but you'll never be able to build a deep, lasting relationship until you understand how to communicate their language. When people know that you understand their problems, they'll move everybody out the way, and make you their first choice because they understand that you know what they have to deal with. And you become partners now in business. So you have to understand, you have to get online. You have to learn technology. You have to learn, how to communicate because the people you're looking for, they're somewhere online. If you don't have an online presence, are you really in business? That's how it is now. If you don't have an online presence, the question is, are you online? And a lot of the big companies are prospering because they have an online presence. Like, you got to see what they do and understand why they're doing that. You have to really begin to pay attention because success always leaves clues. So if you're nervous, and I was nervous about getting online, believe me, I don't know about that. I have no idea, but I had to do it, because when you have the right passion and purpose, you begin to stop thinking about yourself. It's when I began to become passionate and purposeful that I began to be less selfish and thinking about, oh, what if this is not right? What if this is not right? You know what? No one cares about this. It's not about me. It's about the person you're serving, about your customer and your clients. And when you understand that, when your focus is based on serving a need, you begin to listen better. You begin to serve better, begin to provide better resources. But you can't do that if you're being selfish with yourself, being selfish and only thinking about yourself. So you have to get online. You have to be able to position yourself wherever your client is. You got to be where they are so they can find you. You're just there. They will find you. But you got to be there and, of course, use the right technology, the right keywords, the right language so they can find you easier. You remove those barriers and roadblocks. This applies to any business. Be where they are. It's not enough now in 2024, quarter four, 2025 and beyond. It's not enough to just be on one platform. You have to build the skill as a business owner and build the knowledge to be everywhere. Right? You got to be on LinkedIn. You got to be on Instagram. You got to be on Facebook. You got to be on Twitter. And you got to be on Medium. You got to be on FreightWaves. You got to go to the events. You got to go to the meetings. You got to figure out how to structure your life in a way that maximizes your time and allows you to interact with the people who you value most. Because you can't communicate with them if you're not in front of them. Right? Guys, leave a comment. Let me know what you're thinking so far. Because I'm testing things out as well. I'm trying to provide value, trying to help you guys. But let me know what you think in the comment. Any questions you might have. I'm looking at my notes over here. So if I look over, it's just my notes on a different screen. So just understand the issues of your target audience. Some of you are already a part of the target audience. Maybe it's a problem you had. You had a frustration, you had a pain, you had an issue, and you wanted to solve it. So you solved it for yourself. And it worked out so well, people are beginning to ask you how you did that. Right? And then not only that, they're asking, can you do that for me? Right? So now you have the beginning, the infantile stages of a possible business opportunity. So you begin to help others and you begin documenting everything and you begin to see, okay, this is an actual issue, a niche that can provide, value to other people. And you never know, that can grow if you want it to, of course, but you never know, it can grow into something that is sustainable. So as you are, can y'all hear me? If you can hear me, make sure I'm just talking all this time. I never asked if you guys can hear me. But just let me know that you can hear me in the chat. I'm going to go down here. Oh, glad to see ears. I'm about to start. Okay, good. I'm not, it says T. I don't see anything but T. Thank you. That's good. Well, hopefully while you're building everything, you begin to listen and apply what I'm sharing because T is not enough now to just start a trucking business. You really have to get yourself out there. You need clients. You need your money to be long, right? You don't need that 1 day, 2 day loads. All I know is what's going to happen at the end of the week. You don't know if you're going to be able to eat. You got to be able to build contracts and find those trucking companies and brokers who share your values And that's what I'm talking about today. When you're starting your business, start with passion and purpose and have the end already in mind. And do the work now. Do the research. Right now, T, you should be building rapport with other companies. That way, when you're ready to launch, they already know who you are. They already know where you're coming from. They already know your goals and your vision, and you're not starting from the bottom. So keep that in mind. Build your network. Start building trucking companies. Start talking to people. Start understanding the problems of these trucking 3PLs, which is third-party logistics companies. Understand the problems of like a private shipper. Understand the problem and frustrations. Understand what other drivers are going through, because you may have to hire drivers. You know, what are they looking for? What are they expecting? What's the personality you're looking for in a truck driver? All that matters, because it will set you up for success if you understand how to communicate with them and you understand who they actually are. Because everybody is not created equal. They are not. I wrote about it. I have a book I published, which I'm going to be putting out later this year. And I talk about segmenting, your client, but you also segment, your employees as well. And you have to be able to hear when they talk from the rip, right? You got to be able to hear whether that driver is going to be a good candidate or not, because they talk a good talk. They always do. But then when it's time to really get work done, will they be able to align with they understand the mission? In trucking, it's about the customer. Get it there safely and on time. But if your driver decides that they want to go do something opposite of what you value, it makes a difference. Let me give you an example. I had a driver that was I think he was in Kansas, maybe Oklahoma area. Well, I had a new fleet of trucks, and I'm very particular about where they park the trucks, being very mindful. And this driver decides that he wants to take his truck, which is, I get it's personal, I get it, but he had a load the next day. But he got off work, he went to the casino, and he was doing his thing, right? But he had a load the next day. And now he put our company at risk because the values he held didn't match the values of our company. And those are things you have to be able to understand and weed out. What is the personality and the values? They have to understand what are the values. You have to be able to repel those who are not good for you and to attract those who are. But I'm getting ahead of myself. But I wanted to share that as you're thinking through your next year, begin to put things in place, talk to people, build up your business name, make sure it's registered now. I will go ahead and get it registered now. If you know you love trucking, go ahead and get your LLC. Let it sit there, let it age. That way, when it's time, well, thank you, Dunbury. I'm glad I'm glad it's helping you. But go ahead and get the LLC registered now, And let's say, for example, you want to start a trucking company, but you're not really sure. You got two options. You can make it more generic, make your name more generic, or you can just do a DBA, right? But I recommend go ahead and getting registered now, because the age on it is going to help you when you start applying for funding, if you need funding, right? Because you got to have money to keep the business going. So yeah, just make sure you know your target. Take time and talk to as many brokers as possible. Talk to as many trucking companies as possible. Find out what cities are paying the most. Get on FreightWaves and understand the cost per dollar, the dry freight, versus the refrigerated, because maybe it's not a good idea for you to buy a box truck. Maybe it's not a good idea for you to buy a semi truck. Maybe you should get a refrigerated. Maybe you should get a dump truck, right? So you have to really understand, okay, where is the need? And you won't know that unless you get involved in the government, go to the meetings, go to the SBA, go to the what's the name of the other company? There are a lot of different services that the states offer, so just get out there and talk, because they know people, they know other companies doing the same thing you're doing, and they can connect you. So the more prepared you are, the better. So keep that in mind. Know the target audience. Know how they talk, listen to the words they use, because you want to be able to use that in your marketing. Use that when you're talking to them, when you're trying to get a contract or whatever it might be. You want to kind of pair it back to them and then to expound and give your opinion on what it is. So yeah, just do what it follows your passions. Okay. Right. Next thing. Let's see. I kind of allude to it already. I'm gonna erase this right here off the screen. Let's see. Refresh the screen real quick. Okay. Give me 1 second, 4 second, guys. Okay. So we talked about that. So I also want to talk to you about the connection. Okay. Here we go. This is kind of different, but I want to talk about it because it's a topic in my book and it may be new to you guys. Okay. It's called thought leadership. Okay. I mentioned earlier, you want to always begin with the end in mind. Okay. And the end of your business, or the point where you know you're actually working on the business and not in the business, is when you build thought leadership. And what that means is this: you want to be the person that people come to you for advice. You want to be the person they call when they have, like, hey, I'm thinking about this. What do you think, about this or that, right? You want your thinking to make you money. You want to be able to consult people like what I'm doing right now. You want to get there, whether it's internal, whether it's in the industry, whether it's to other companies, right? And you have to start with the end in mind. You do it now, right? So while you're and Don Breezy, while you are learning the industry, document what you're learning. Like, get online and begin to tell people what you've learned. Whether you want to be a YouTube person or not, but I promise you, the future is based on the internet. YouTube is where it's at, yeah, guys. Instagram is where it's at. Twitter's where it's at. LinkedIn is where it's at. You have to get online and start creating content. And as you begin to create the content, what you're doing, you're learning how to use these platforms. And you might not be talking about your opinion all the time, but it's the building blocks to help you build out other videos and content and how to do this and services you're doing and testimonials, right? But you gotta first start with thought leadership, because people will hire you based on what you think, right? You're like, I understand that person. I like that person. Hey, you know what? I need to do this. I have a person to follow on. Let me call that person, right? So you want to begin to share your thoughts, because what happens is you get better at communicating. You get better at talking. And then that same video you created 2 months ago, go back and you watch it and you pull out the most important things you said that resonated with the people who are watching. And you create other content with it, right? Now you're creating other posts and other videos, and you're using it as material. Right? Use it as material, and you're reforming it and repurposing it for other content. Because you should always be marketing. You're always marketing when you're in business, and nothing goes to waste. So you want to begin to think and get your thoughts clear. Because what happens is you're learning what's important to you. You're learning what you do not want to tolerate. You're learning what your values are, and if that video gets 1,000 views or 10,000 views, only a small percent of the people who watch are possible clients or employees, right? So your very next hire might be watching the video, and because you're sharing your thoughts and your values, they're beginning to analyze themselves and say, I understand that, or I get that, or I would love to work for that person one day. Right? So they're validating themselves and aligning themselves to what you were speaking. And then they reach out to you, and now you're not spending $100 on Indeed trying to get an employee. I'm telling you that Indeed is a scam. Indeed is a scam. But anyways, you're not spending money trying to find drivers or trying to find employees. or trying to find your next office manager, right? You're putting your thoughts out there and letting the internet do the heavy lifting for you, right? You're letting them find you and connect with you, and also they'll refer you, right? So now you're creating a tribe. You're creating a solar system. I always say I said in my book, it's like you're the sun in a solar system, right? And guys, I'm live, so when you come in, you'll see me talking. I'm just live doing some training and kind of getting you guys what you need to focus on in the next year. But you want to make sure that you are out there getting your thoughts cleared out, getting all the fog out. Sometimes you talk and what's happening is you're feedback into yourself whether that's true. Feedback into yourself whether it's important to you. And then as you begin to evolve and grow and learn more information, your knowledge base grows and people can see your progress. And you never know what can come out of that by building your thought leadership. You're always documenting your journey. And then as you're documenting and what you've learned in the industry, what you learn as you're building your business, and you show them what you're doing, now you have a following of people who are possible your next customers. Not only that, when you do begin to build your website out, they go look you up. Because now you go look up people's names now. You go online, you do an investigation, you're searching people up, right? And you want to have a presence where they know who you are. I'll give you an example. I'm using very extreme examples. I said earlier, whether you voted for Trump or not, he's a master marketer. Now, we use Kamala. She did a good job the time she had, but nobody knew her, right? She didn't have the social equity built from years and years and years, right? Kamala should have been documenting her journey and her ideas more intentionally when she was a DA in California. She should have been engaging more and being more vocal, but sometimes things happen in our lives and we look up like, wow, an opportunity presents itself. It was an afterthought versus it being a forethought. So just keep that in mind as contrast, as learning lessons. You want to begin to document now your journey. You don't want to pop up on top and nobody knows who you are. And they're going to be wondering, should I trust this person? Should I hire this person? No, you begin with the end in mind. Because the end is that you're the CEO and you're able now to speak to your team and to inspire them. Because you learned how to do that 5 years ago when you started your first YouTube channel or social media channel, and you've learned how to communicate value to your audience. So I'm challenging you guys to think bigger, think better, to think like a business owner. It's not just about, owning a truck or owning a real estate company, whatever industry you're in. It's about being that CEO. And there are skills and competencies and there's values and thought processes and there's rituals that you should have to be successful. And that begins with being that thought leader, knowing how to convey your thoughts in a way that galvanizes people to join onto your cause, to galvanize them to want to help you get where you want to go. You want to inspire people to be a fan of you, right? And that start with getting your thoughts out there and not being afraid and building the skills so you can teach somebody else to do something that you're now doing, and you continue to focus on the next level of building your business. So I encourage you guys, as you're building your business, make a video. Say, hey, a milestone. I did this today, Be intentional about your journey. Because I'm telling you, you'll look back a year later and be like, wow, I came a long way, And that all feeds into your story. Because as you begin to apply for funding, they'll be asking for your corporate story. And it's one thing to have the documented proof you can go back to than versus trying to remember what you've been through, right? It's so much more powerful to have that track record. So think about that as you're building and getting your business all set up in the coming weeks before 2025 or the next coming weeks. So that one more thought I want to share with you guys. And we're almost an hour on this call, on this live. And that is, I mentioned it earlier, And that was, it kind of goes still with thought leadership, but the reason why you want to do and share your thoughts is because you want to repel and attract, right? You want to repel and attract. I'll put it up here a little far. Repel and attract. All right. All right. All business is not good business. All employees are not good employees. You want to weed them out before they get to you. We don't have time to waste. We're all here for a finite amount of time. And the last thing we need is for someone to waste our time, right? Someone to waste our resources when someone could have been in that spot receiving those services, who actually appreciate who you are, what you bring, and the value you provide, right? So you want to create thought leadership that is fearless. You want to be your best version of yourself, of course, but you don't want to be afraid of sharing what you believe and what you think and your opinions, because when you are building a business, who you are is going to be what your business becomes. I mentioned earlier that you're a person. You have values, you have goals, you have visions, and when you're building a business, you're actually creating a person. You're creating an entity that has personality, and you're trying to give it shape and form so it can go into the world and represent the leader, you, right? So you want that business to attract and repel certain people because they won't align with your vision and values. And if you bring the wrong people on board, they're going to damage your business. Those of you who've been in business for a while, the wrong person can stall your growth. They will either kill your business. They can stagnate you, right? So you want to repel them before they even hit the front door. You want to make sure that you're being very conscious of the words you're using. Let me give you an example. If I'm marketing something, I'm like, hey, I'll give you guys free loads and free this and free that. You're going to be getting a lot of freeloaders coming to your business asking for services. And if you do that for a long amount of time, we're giving free this and free that, because the words you use, you've attracted freeloaders. They're looking for that word free, right? Versus using the word complimentary or trial, or you see what I'm saying? The words you use will attract or repel people. So be very conscious of how you're speaking, because that is going to attract a certain personality, a certain client base, a certain employee type. So when they're coming on and you're saying free, and then when you finally say, okay, I have to go ahead and start charging these people, and you start charging them, they all leave. Because they were never there for you. They were there for what attracted them to you, which is the free stuff. And once the free stuff goes away, they complain, they give out bad reviews, they leave, because they never were there for you in the first place. So be very careful that you are intentionally weeding people out, because if you're not making money, you're not running a business. It's a hobby, right? And money is not the focus, like I mentioned earlier. It's not the focus, it's a given. You gotta have money to be in business, and you have to charge people. Y'all have gotta charge. And I can say that with conviction, because I was that person who was like, oh no, I don't, not no more. Listen, this is the price, and I'm only looking for a certain person that can afford, but because you can't afford my services, I'm not going to leave you empty-handed. I'm going to refer you to somebody who can help you, right? Because it's not me. You got to be like that, or you will find out real quick. The IRS, don't play. I spent thousands of dollars on the IRS tax payments, on just different, tax costs. Spent thousands on fuel and insurance, and people bumping into the guardrails and flattening a tire or whatever. So you have to charge, because you don't know what the future holds. You got to have a margin in there so that you can have breathing room to grow. and you can have the room you need to actually to reinvest into your business. So from the beginning, you want to know your target audience, know how to communicate with them, repel them now, attract them now, be thinking to the future while you're building, and I think that's the most important thing in 2025. Don't be afraid to speak, your values. And the only way to really speak your values is to know what you're talking about, right? And you cannot repeat what they say if you're not talking to the people. Like, talk to your customers. Get on LinkedIn and start reading the comments, getting engaged in the comments, ask questions, research. Like, don't be afraid, because what separates you from those who are successful is that they talk to their customers. They engage with them. They build a relationship with them. And the relationship, it has to be based on more than just the business. Like, you have to know, hey, what's their favorite football team? What's their favorite basketball team? How many kids do they have? Like, that way, if your business changes, if you go into a different industry, that relationship doesn't break down, because you have more than one modality of connection that connects you to these people. And maybe you may not be in trucking anymore, but maybe you are, into, I don't know, some other industry, just random industry, right? And because of the intentionality you had, they can still be a viable customer for you or client for you in your new venture. So making sure you actually get to know people, and on more than one level. You attract them because you have so many things in common. Make sense what I'm saying? And then you repel them who are not aligned with your passion and purpose. Okay? So I'll stop there. So much I can share with you guys. Tell me what you guys want to know. Tell me what you want to learn about. If you can, I have put some links in the description below. I actually have a new channel that I started, and I decided I'm going to keep both channels going. I'll probably do some training over here, and then some more private things over there where we go and I show you the websites. I walk you through it. I consult you. I help you. I'm not sure how it's going to look, but I'm open to exploring that. But let me know what you think. Let me know what you need, what you're thinking about. But right now is the time to prepare. While they are distracted, while they are doing their thing, we need to be working. And this is quarter 4. If you do quarter 4 right, then your next year should be a breeze. And I want to do a series where I teach you how to plan. It's not just 1, 2, 3. No, it's a process to planning. And if you can learn the process, it'll change your entire business, because you're not taking 3 steps forward and 10 steps back. When you have a good plan that's solid, it's not long, but it's strategic. When you start off with strategy, it makes a difference in how your business will grow. So let me know what you guys want to learn, because I can give you guys what I know, but if it's not going to help you, it doesn't really matter. Let me take this off real quick. It doesn't really matter, what it is, be a waste. So let's not waste this time we have together. Let me know what you need. And because I put some links below, definitely go to the other channel, subscribe there. That way you won't miss when I'm starting to post over there. I'm just getting started. So I'm building up the next business that I'm building, which is a coaching business, and taking my passion and my purpose and really pouring into people. Because I've been in business since I was 10 years old, right? We were selling candy for my uncle, right? He had us selling candy door to door for him. But I learned a lot in that, even at 10 years old. And it was a little drop in my life. And then it grew later in college when I decided I wanted to become a consultant. And all the things that kind of happened that brought me to this day, right? Brought me to this part of my life. And my mission, my passion is to remove frustration, remove the veil, remove any problems, and make business ownership feasible, right? Because I really do believe we're building businesses wrong. Like, we are building business as if we are a Fortune 500 company. And when you do it that way, it's like you're going to struggle because we don't have the resources. We don't have the brand built. They already have things in place that allow them to build what they build. When you're starting off, you got to think differently in business. You got to, I mentioned to T, you got to already have the end in mind. You have to be very clear on your purpose and your passion. You have to really begin to make sure you're compliant on all levels with government regulations. You have to understand those regulations. And you have to take the time it takes to understand the pain, the frustration, and the language of people who are going to be of service. You're going to be of service too. So there's a lot of different things. And I think that if we can just understand what businesses and what industries are good and where to enter at, how to enter the market, I think it'll alleviate a lot of frustrations, because if you enter the market wrong, you're going to struggle. You're going to see money falling out your pockets like a leak, right? Because it's not sustainable. It's not viable to do it that way. So, just want to help where I can, learn from my experiences and the knowledge I have. And yeah, that's all. What do y'all think? I'm going to get off here in a minute, but I want to make sure I give you guys a chance to say anything. There should be some links below this video if you want to connect with me on the other channel. And there's a book that I have published where I actually teach how to start a business. But I'm using universal principles, because one thing that I'll say it's not in. One thing that I have seen in business is that someone will teach you how to start a business, and you got to do it their way, right? So you get in there, you start learning all their tools and their processes, and then it might not fit your personality. And then you're seeing them, you're like, man, how are they doing all that, right? And maybe you find yourself being stressed and frustrated, and you're chasing after something, and it doesn't align with what you really want to do anyways. So now you are trying to build something, and it's not what you want. You're building their dream, right? You're building how they built it. My goal is to teach you how businesses work. That way you can bring your personality in, and you could follow the pattern. It's all about patterns. If you can find the pattern, you can decode it. You can figure it out. But if you don't know the pattern, then you're going to be doing things that don't really matter. You're going to be doing things that don't really matter. I'm telling you, I've done it. It is not nice. It will wear you out. It will wear you out. So I want to bring vitality. I want to bring energy. I want to bring people to be excited about what they're doing. Because you can say excited, you can do anything. You can do absolutely anything. So that's it, y'all. I hope that helped a little bit. You can go back and watch the replay. I'll do it again. I might come back on tomorrow with a whole other topic. But I really want to help you guys as much as I can. If there's something that I said that was not clear, let me know. And it's my first time going live, y'all. So I'm even challenging myself. I'm growing. I'm doing something that's out of my comfort zone, because believe me, I don't like being on camera. I do not like it, but it's not about me. So I'm going to do the best that I can to make sure that you have everything you need to succeed, especially in the climate we're living in. Don't trust in Kamala. Do not trust in Trump. You have to do it for yourself, because they can't help you. Now, if y'all think that Trump and Kamala are saviors, then y'all really have mistaken yourselves. Trust no man. Don't even trust me. But I'm going to tell you one thing. I'll make sure you have what you need, and it's on you from that point on. I'm going to give you what you need, and you can run with it. Yeah, y'all, I'm just excited about the future. I'm excited about helping, and we'll see what happens, okay? I'm going to go. Take care, y'all.